In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Family. Welcome to another powerful installment of American Black and White, where truth meets testimony and where our stories, Black stories, are honored with depth, dignity, and the brilliance they deserve. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King, and tonight we continue our mission of elevating voices that shape our communities, strengthen our institutions, and remind us that leadership is not a title, it's a calling. Tonight's guest embodies that calling with a rare blend of authenticity, scholarship, and service. He is the son of Dayton, Ohio, a proud product of Kentucky State University, and a visionary whose life works centers on one simple but profound principle. We are helpers to one another. From the residence halls to the boardroom, from scholarship creation to community engagement, from line dancing to leadership development, he shows up fully, boldly, and unapologetically. Family, prepare yourselves for a conversation rooted in purpose, powered by passion, and grounded in the legacy of giants like John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Shirley Chisholm. This is going to be a night of truth, joy, and elevation. Let's welcome Dr. Kevin Reese.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. How you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing just excellent. How are you, sir?
I am good. Well, let me first say thank you for having me on tonight. I am definitely excited to be joining you tonight to elevate the conversation and to have a good time.
Yes, sir. So before we dive into the show, is there anything you'd like for our audience to know before we get going?
I just want you to I want you to tune in and be engaged tonight. This is a conversation not between just me and Charles, but between all of us, right? We're all in this thing together, as my grandmother would always tell me. So if you hear me reference my grandmother 140 times during the interview, that's because she had a profound impact on my rearing and who I am as a person today. So if you hear my grandmother, just know that it's meant in love and uplift.
And speaking of your grandmother, let's start with your life story and your roots. Growing up in Dayton, Ohio, what early experience shaped your sense of purpose and identity?
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with church, of course. From an early start, the junior choir, the junior usher board, being in leadership roles, oratorical contests, being able to develop my leadership skills. That's where I got my start in church, and I think that platform really allowed me to hone my leadership skills, develop those skills, and then to put them forth out into the world. My pastor prepared me, for whatever I'd be against once I left, Dayton, Ohio. And it's been a huge blessing to my life, to be quite honest. We had youth leadership programs. I was part of something called Youth Leadership Dayton, which allowed 40 of the brightest high school students in the Montgomery County area to come together for an entire year, developing and honing our leadership skills and allowing us to network and have different experiences with the government, local government, finance offices, education entities, different business models. And so that was also a huge help. I can remember my sophomore year, I had a chance. I was one of 68 sophomore class presidents in high school to be part of the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Symposium, which is called HOBie. which is a very rare honor to have. And so those things prepare me for who I am today. And I will always be grateful for those things.
Mm. Who poured into you as a young Black man and helped you see your own potential?
My teachers in elementary and middle and high school. I hate that young people now might not get that same experiences. I had teachers who were going to make sure that I was successful. Okay, if I didn't have application money to apply to colleges, they were going to make sure that I had money to apply. Okay, did I have a ride to get to the SAT? Could I finish programs like the Young Scholars at Sinclair Community College? I had teachers and principals and counselors who poured into me and saw those early glimpses of success. And for that, I'm always going to be grateful. Of course, my grandmother, my mother, my pastor, and then my church family. I really had some strong individuals who made sure that I was grounded, that I remained humble, but also that I saw my potential.
Seems like you had a really strong foundation.
Absolutely.
Tell us, so like with that foundation, what does it mean to you to be the person that you are now? What did they contribute to that that's giving you so much success? What's that one thing?
Resiliency.
Hmm.
Webster's defines resiliency as the ability to bounce back no matter what you face. And as you know, sometimes you have difficult moments in life, but you cannot allow those moments to keep you knocked down. You have to be able to bounce back. I liken resiliency to a rubber band, right? No matter how many times you pull it, it's always going to go back to shape. And so resiliency.
Wow. So what led you to choose Kentucky State University and how did KSU transform you?
Kentucky State University was about 2.5 hours from my house in Dayton, Ohio. I wanted to be able to get away from my mother, not like that, but I wanted to be able to grow up on my own. So
Right.
I wanted to get far enough away, but also to be close enough in case something happened. And she also said I couldn't go to my other three top choices. So Alabama A&M, North
Mhm.
Carolina Central, and Morehouse. She's like, oh, those are absolutely too far for you to go. And I said I did not want to go to Central State University, which is like 25 minutes from my house, or Wilberforce. And so Kentucky State was the next option. And when I tell you that experience absolutely changed my life, it is the only public historically Black college in the state of Kentucky. We call it the House on the Hill. We are
Mhm.
thoroughbred, so we are bred for excellence. And that experience, it going to an HBCU is like a cultural baptism in Black excellence, fashion and scholarly research and just culture and music and just the talent of all these brilliant individuals. I had the chance to be baptized every month in Black brilliance, and you just cannot replicate the experience of a historically Black college. And so from that experience, I had some amazing mentors who poured into me. Dr. Reginald Davis, Miss Dr. Patricia Niemba, Miss Leslie Thomas, Dr. Vernell Bennett. These individuals poured into me in higher education, and that led me to my career in higher education, right? So without those individuals, I probably wouldn't have had the success that I've had so far in the field.
Your time at an HBCU influenced your leadership style today.
How has it influenced my leadership style? I think it allowed me to understand that everybody comes from a different walk of life, right? You need to always take time to be able to listen to somebody's story. We have such a brilliant tapestry as Black people. And at the HBCU, you just never know who's walking through the doors. Yes, we're all Black, but we all have different life experiences. And I think those things taught me in my career now to of course, never judge a book by its cover, but to also realize that sometimes there is untapped talent in people who may not see their own talent.
Mhm. Wow. So, in all of that excellence, and you're seeing people come from all these different places, can you tell us, was the diversity for the different people, even though you all look alike, the same color skin that is, that come from these different areas and being in the HBCU, how can you compare that to the other traditional universities that you've been to?
I think the diversity, especially diversity in talent, right? So, in my hometown, you couldn't tell me I wasn't the best singer coming out of Dayton, Ohio. But then I got to Kentucky State University in the concert choir, and I was surrounded by other musicians. And I'm like, well, sweet Abraham, these folks can really sing. And, so even just the musical diversity, right? We all come from different cities and food types and cultures and religious backgrounds. And I think for me, that just gave me a chance to see that, we have just, it's this rich blend of culture and heritage and people that make us who we are. Now, you can get the same thing at a PWI, maybe not as much, right? I'm not going to say, I'm never going to say you don't get the same experience, but the experience at an HBCU prepared me to be a leader in any situation, right? To go out and take my rightful place in a global society, understanding that education is the surest vehicle to upward mobility, right? That's what Kentucky State University prepared me for, the diversity at Kentucky State University.
Oh, wow. What personal challenges did you overcome on your journey to becoming Dr. Reese?
Oh man. So if we're just talking about my doctoral journey, in the midst of 3.5 years, I lost my grandmother, my oldest aunt, my youngest aunt, my great uncle, who was the last tie to my grandfather, who passed away before I was born, one of my very special and close cousins, all within the span of 18 months. And so
wow.
I mean, it was, it was heart-wrenching, right? But I knew that I had to keep on going, right? I was doing this for my nephews to see that it could be done. And when I got done, I said, I'm glad that I was able, with those lessons they taught me early on in life, to continue keeping on, right? No matter what life may throw at you, what may happen, to keep on keeping on, right? You got to remain pushing, praying until something happens, believing that all things are going to work out, right?
Your family respond when you earned your doctorate?
Say it again.
Did your family respond when you earned your doctorate?
They were excited. My mom and my sister came down to support me, and one of my really good friends from college came down to support me, and it just really meant a lot to have their support. But people, the love that I got, between LinkedIn and Facebook, and my family, my friends, my college friends, it was overwhelming. But it felt good, right? Like it was like, hey, you made it out. But even in that making it out, now I got to pass it on to somebody else going through the process. People always ask me, what do I like in my doctoral experience too? I said, I liken it to 2 songs, Marsha Ambrosia's Late Night, Early Mornings, because that's what it was. And Whitney Houston, I Have Nothing, because at the end, I had nothing left to give, okay? But the experience was well worth it, right, man? And I think without those experiences, I wouldn't have, people say, oh, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into a project. And it means more when you put something into it. My mother, when I was growing up, she would always tell me, she'd buy me new shoes, and I would, put them on, and I would smash the back of them down. She said, you won't appreciate it, you got to buy it to yourself. And I said, listen, that's how that journey was for me in my doctoral studies. I didn't appreciate it until I got done, because I knew that something that I did, I was able to accomplish. So, yes.
So how did that lead to you wanting to be more impactful on the educational journey for the students that you will be influencing?
Absolutely. So my doctoral research was centered around Black male student success programs at predominantly white institutions, right? How are they successful? Defining matriculation. What does that look like for them? Success and retention. What does that look like? And so I had to be, when you're passionate about something, it's not hard work. I've heard people say, oh, my research was so tedious and I was so tired. I was so overwhelmed. That's what I lived. I lived every day. I was working in a student support office while I was going through my matriculation, my doc program. So for me, I said, this is everyday work for me. And so it wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult for me, because it's something that I'm passionate about. That's how I started my scholarship program, the Vision of Excellence, right? Being able to support Black men in their educational aspirations, for the first time college attendees.
So what does being a first generational doctoral graduate mean to you? Mean to your community back home?
It means that I'm a success story, that I made it out. I can remember being in 3rd grade, and I had a white teacher. He was Irish, and he told me, he said, I hope you actually make it out, but I doubt it. I hope you, by the time I see you again, I'll probably be in a prison pipeline. Because, at that point, there was a test we took in 4th grade, and that determined your school to the school to prison pipeline. That was the course of the test, right? That determined where you went, in a sense. And so when he said, I hope you make it, but I doubt it, that really struck something in me at an early age to make sure that I made it. So when I made it, I could go back and show that, hey, I made it with or without your support, and the doubting of, and you doubting my success and my potential, even as a 3rd grader at 9 years old.
Wow. Let's talk about your higher education leadership and the work that you do as Dean of Students. As Dean of Students, what does a day in the life look like for you?
Listen, no day is the same. Okay. I have to-do list every day when I get to work. And when I tell you, some days I don't even get through the to-do list, but that's what I love. I love the variety of my job. I love the spontaneity of my role, because I'm in a position where I am molding the next generation of leaders and change agents. So the day I may plan to have 6 meetings in a day and may only get to 1, but if I've helped one person, what does the song say? Then my labor is not in vain, excuse me. And so it never looks the same, but I can tell you that every day is a blessing, right? As my granny would tell me, I get to pour into somebody else. And so if I can get home and be empty at the end of the day because I poured out to people, then I call that a success. So it never looks the same. Now, some days are a little more difficult than others. Yes, we understand that. But at the end of the day, if I can look back and, come back in 10 or 15 and somebody say, hey, I appreciate you, Dr. Reese, because you helped me. You remember that one time you did this, and that, or we had that conversation. You told me I could do it. I could make it, even though I had these challenges. No, I don't remember, but I appreciate you for remembering, right? And it's the small things, the small differences that you can make in the lives of people that really make the job worthwhile.
So what is your motivation?
My motivation is for those people who say that 1st generation students or people from low income backgrounds or from single parent households can't make it, because, hey, look at me, I made it. I still have to think when people are like, oh, Dr. Reese, and I'll be like, oh, that's me. I'm sorry. Hold on, let me click back in real fast. But to show that you can make it, do not let the societal norms dictate your success. Oh, he didn't have a father in the household. Oh, he's not going to make it. Yes, you can. You can make it. My mother was my mother is an amazing role model to me. She made sure that I had everything that I needed to be successful, even surrounded with that community of Black men in my church or in the leadership programs. I remember I was a part of Jack and Jill of America, those Black men, making sure that I had everything that I needed to be successful, right? And so knowing that you can do anything you put your heart and your mind to, and I'm a living testimony for that.
Philosophy guides your approach to student conduct and accountability.
You said what's one word?
What philosophy guides your approach to student conduct and accountability?
That we are helpers one to another. That's my favorite line. We are helpers one to another. That's what my grandmother said, but understanding that every sanction can't be punitive. Sometimes we need restoration. Right? You don't know anyone's story. So I take the time to listen to each one of the cases that come across my desk and understand that, not everybody needs a $500 fine or a $2,100 fine. Some people just need some community service and a hug and a conversation, a mentor to give them some guidance. Right? So being able to provide restorative justice to those students on campus, but that we're helpers one to another. I tell people, once we're locked in, we are locked in. If I have resources, you have resources. Just don't embarrass me. But if I got resources, then you have resources.
Oh, what are some of the conversations you have with your students? Do you ever mention to them, this is what your background was, this is how things were for you, how you got here, or what kind of conversations have you had with them?
Listen, my conversations can be a little bit of everything, right? Because I don't believe in sugarcoating anything with my students, right? The life will not be sugarcoated once you step outside of these gates. Life will hit you hard, and it's going to hit you fast for some people, right? So I'm having real conversations. You have to realize the decisions that you make also have consequences. And if that includes sending you home, then that's what it is, right? But you have to understand the choices that you make, the people that you hang around, the things that you listen to and that you engage in, those all have consequences, right? So we Very real conversations. I don't know. I do call them my kids, right? Even though I know they're 20 and 18 to 25. I have some students that are 50, okay? But you're all still my kids. And I have a responsibility as a practitioner to help you be developed. Okay. It is my job as a practitioner to take these students from where they are to where they need to be. And if that involves a more harsh conversation, then that's what it's going to involve.
See, I like that. I like that because I think that's one of the things that that I can say. I'm just speaking from my perspective as I talk as I get this next question out. Is that when you mention that, that's how I grew up because it's like we got to prepare you for the world.
Yes.
We can't sit here and say, "Oh, we go. Everything is in rose-colored glasses, and you everywhere you go, somebody's gonna be there to hold your hand."
It's going to be
Oh,
easy. It's going to be like pie. No, it's not. Okay. When what I saw someone on Instagram that said somebody told me life was going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy, and he said it's been difficult. Okay. I said, listen, I absolutely understand. So we can't sugarcoat. This is not 1985. The world is evolving every day. The world is not what it was when I graduated high school, when I started college, right? And I don't want any of my kids to get out here and fall by the wayside because they were not prepared.
discipline with compassion in student affairs.
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
I said, how do you balance discipline with compassion in student affairs?
You know, taking time to listen to the story of the person. You know, and if it's your first offense, okay, I'm more lenient on the consequences, right? But if it's your fourth or fifth or 19th offense, we're going to have a real conversation, and that might include sending you home. But you have to understand that again, not everyone, just because we're black, and I work at a small liberal arts institution, a historically black college, and you have to understand that even though all this, most of this, 98% of my students are black, not everyone has the same upbringing. I have first generation college students. I have students who are both parents went to college, and I have parents who are engineers, parents who are farm workers. You just never know, and so you have to be able to balance those things before, as you're meeting and talking and growing with students. And I tell people, we're growing together, right? I'm learning from you, and you're learning from me. That's how I balance compassion, right? Because we're learning from each other. So I want to give grace to you as you're learning from me, and I want you to give me grace. I'm learning from you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Challenges facing today's college students.
Some of the biggest challenges facing today's college students. My God, where do I start? I would say the lack of support at home. I would say over the last 6 years now, I really feel like COVID did a number on our students, right? It really reduced the lack of social skills, conversational skills, and just interaction and engagement skills of our students, right? And it caused the entitlement to go up just a bit. So I would say that. I would say mental health. A lot of folks don't like talking about mental health, and it is something that needs to continue to be at the forefront of every conversation that we have. If you are having difficulties, let us help you. We have resources on campus that are able to assist you, whether on campus or in the community, right? I want you to be the best version of yourself, showing up every day. If you need help, don't be scared to ask. And that's that's probably the biggest thing. Students are scared to ask for help. Well, I didn't want to bother you. That's what I get paid to do. I want you to come bother me, right? You never know how we can help each other. So I would say the lack of social and engagement skills, the lack of mental health, the lack of conversations around mental health, and students just not being as engaged as they once were, and thinking that the college was the surest vehicle to upper mobility. There are 1,000 vehicles now. But I'm always going to say the college is, my best choice. But that doesn't speak for everybody, though.
Well, as you mentioned the COVID situation and with students not really wanting to ask for help and so forth, are you seeing a difference where, social skills for a lot of these young kids, especially first generational kids, where the social skills are just not all the way there and they don't have the ability to critically think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have students on campus, and when when they say things, I was like, did you take a moment to think that through? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Let's go back outside, think that through, and come back. Right. I want you to make the right decision. But and even in helping students to communicate, right, whether it's written or verbal, I want you to put your best foot forward. And so I have seen a really big, it's a really big gap. And COVID did cause that. And so I try my best every day to help students kind of bridge some of those gaps. Some are receptive, some are not. But you still have to try every day.
Cultivate a campus culture of belonging and safety.
How do I cultivate that?
Yes.
Well, first, like I said, these are my kids. I'm going to look out for my kids at the end of the day. When your parents, your Meemaw, your cousin, your auntie, your parole officer dropped you off, they put you in my care. Okay. And I got to make sure that you are safe, that you are supported, and that you are whole when you leave here. Okay. I want to make sure that you are cared for. I don't want you to feel like, you're number 99437A, right? Your student ID number. I want you to feel like a person. I want you to feel like, I'm not going to tell you, come to my office. You're welcome. You're welcome. I want you to walk through the threshold and feel it for yourself. Whether it's the conversation that we had, whether it's the music that's playing, whether it's the resources that I'm providing to you, that's how students feel welcome and safe and comfortable, knowing that, hey, if I go to Dr. Reese, I'm going to be all right. We're going to figure something out together. That's how you establish a culture. It might take a few weeks, a few months to learn the culture at an institution, but once you build it, it takes very intentional work to build those cultures.
What innovations have you brought to Morris College's student experience?
The ability to travel outside of the state. You'd be surprised at students who have never been outside of South Carolina. And I was like, oh, you mean like this year? And it was like, no, never. Like, you never been on a plane? Never. And I was like, wow. And they said, what about you? I said, I've been on a plane 5 times this year. Like, I'm like, that's crazy. But being able to do things that are outside their comfort zone. My granny would always tell me that your life begins at the end of your comfort zone, right? So being able to take students to leadership conferences in Indianapolis and New York and the UNCF conference in Atlanta, being able to expose them to new experiences, graduate school tours, cultural heritage immersion experiences. That's what I like to provide to students because, yes, we're all Black, but not everybody has the same Black experience. I want you to experience what life can be like, right? You're going through this process. This is what life can be like.
When you got those kids, though, that's got that thing within that shell that they're hard to get out of that shell, do you find yourself having to spend more time to help them with the at-easement, or does it just happen naturally?
Some people, it takes a little bit of extra love and care, and we understand that. It's just like working with adults. It takes, and people are like, oh, they're adults, they're 18. They're late adolescents. That's what I call them, okay? Yes, you're 18 by age, but you're still a late teenager, late adolescents. But some people, it does take a little bit of extra love, care, and concern. But I think it's in those moments, that's when you really build that trust with people. When they can see that you are trying to really pull the best out of them, that's how you build great relationships. So it does take time, but that's what I get paid to do. I get paid for students to be able to see their full potential. And that's what I enjoy the most.
So you feel comfortable in knowing that you're confident that your students have got fully trust and they support you and they just believe when they come to you that you give them those words of wisdom, that encouragement that makes them feel that much better about themselves.
That's always my hope, Charles, right? But I got some people who don't like me because, oh, you're too hard on me. I'm not. Listen, I want you to understand that I am preparing you for what is next. It's never intentional to be rough or harsh on you. I just want you to be prepared and not to feel like the world is attacking you when you leave here.
It's good instructors like you that I think most colleges and universities need.
Absolutely.
Because
Appreciate that.
there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that really don't actually take that time to understand or to put in that time to make these students be that much comfortable, make them feel better about themselves. A lot of instructors tear them down.
I'll say this: working in higher education, specifically student affairs, this is heart work. HEART. This is heart work. It's mission work. I don't care what anybody says. People say, oh, you got a new job. I have a new assignment. I have a new ministry assignment. That's what I call them, right?
Right.
Because nothing happens by happenstance, Charles. We're sent to place when we're supposed to be there. So it's hard work, it's missionary work, and we are there to help, the next generation of people. And so that's how I look at my new jobs. They're ministerial assignments. It's hard work, missionary assignments. Yeah.
How do you compare the campus you're at now to the one that you left?
Well, it's much smaller. I left a system school and I had about 27,000 students across 3 campuses. At my current institution, I have about 450 students. So much smaller, smaller class size, but more intentional, much more engaged. And it's always the thing of resources, right? I was at a system school that had resources out the wazoo. At a smaller school, we are enrollment driven, and when you don't get those enrollment numbers, sometimes the funding is affected by that.
Yeah. So you support students who feel unseen or unheard.
Taking time to listen. I think we'd be surprised at what a simple you just being quiet can do for people. I try as I get older. I try not to be a person who listens to respond, but listens to understand you. I want to hear your whole story before I just start talking. But sometimes I get excited. I just start talking, right? If I got resources, if I got an answer for you. But you'd be surprised in the things that can happen in those small, still moments that you build with students. Especially my freshmen, when you get there, I want you to understand, I know you're away from home. It may be scary, a big, scary word out there. But in this space, someone is here and we're cared and concerned about you to make sure that you are successful as a person, as a son, as a father in some instances, an uncle, a husband, whatever your aunt, uncle, a daughter, whatever your situation is. I want you to know that you have the support and the resources in me, in the team, to be successful.
What does student wellness mean to you?
What does student wellness mean to me?
Holistic student wellness.
We focus, when people hear about wellness, they automatically think about physical wellness, right? Are you overweight? How's your heart? How's your, are you muscular? Are you working out? But if you think holistically, that means spiritual wellness, financial wellness, cultural wellness. I think I try and bring programs that are going to help the entire person. Okay. So if it's line dancing, great. That's great physical wellness. Okay. We have our financial literacy coach coming in. That's financial wellness. We have a Sunday night Vesper service. The kids don't know what Vesper service is. That's something for us older people. But, Vesper services, for your spiritual wellness piece. We have to look at students and develop the whole person. And so I look at it like a pie chart. And I try and plug in things throughout the year in each one of those pie pieces to make sure that all the students are getting everything they need to be successful.
You mentor young Black men navigating college life.
How do I mentor?
Yes.
By taking very intentional time out, right? So I'm a member of a Greek organization, National Panhellenic Greek organization, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And, President Obama had this thing, or President Obama, and then my fraternity, it's called My Brother's Keeper, right? Yes, I'm older than you, but you're still my brother at the end of the day. And I've got to make sure that you are keeping yourself, but I'm also keeping you as well, right? I don't want anybody to fall by the wayside. So very intentional conversations. And it's the small things and the small details that you remember about people. And they say, you remember that? You remember we had that conversation? Yes, I do. I remember you said that you like daffodils, right? Or that your favorite drink is orange Faygo. And people are so surprised when you remember small details about them. That is how you build trust. That's how you build relationships. And I think that's been the building block of my success, being able to be very intentional with the students that I serve, especially young Black men, because I know what it's like, right?
Yeah. What legacy do you hope to leave in higher education?
So I have my own podcast, and that's one of my questions. What legacy do you hope to leave? I hope to leave a legacy of excellence, right? That in all things, I was striving for excellence, a legacy of care, that I care for all of my kids, no matter what you look like, where you came from, whether you like me or not, a legacy of care, and then a legacy that I was intentionally engaged with people to make sure they became their best selves. That's what I hope my legacy to be.
A little bit about your podcast. What's the name of it, and what motivated you to get that going?
My podcast is called The Wednesday Experience. The Wednesday Experience podcast takes listeners on a journey of life, laughter, wisdom, and everything else in between. You never know who my guest might be. My friends, my family, my fraternity brothers, my colleagues, the lady I met at the ice cream aisle at Walmart, the cashier at Popeyes, my postal worker, your parole officer. You just never know who's going to slide through the podcast to provide a bit of wisdom. But I started the podcast on a Wednesday, actually. Hence the name Wednesday Experience. And I was sitting there and I had an epiphany. I was like, Kevin, you are sitting in the things that you prayed for once upon a time. And I said, and I had that experience on a Wednesday. So I called the Wednesday Experience. Mm-hmm. I know it's simple, but that it's my baby.
I mean, that's interesting because in calling it the Wednesday Experience, knowing that Wednesday is in the middle of the week, that's normally you either going to get over or you going to like stay firm that day, but you got to really move forward as you go into Thursday and Friday. So I think
it's to
really
help you get over the hump. It's to help you get over the hump. A little laughter, a little joke, a little wisdom, insight, encouragement, just to help you get over your hump.
Yeah. So where can they find your podcast?
We are on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google, and we're on Stitcher. So feel free to look us up.
Good. Over to your entrepreneurship and vision of excellence scholarship. What inspired you to create the Vision of Excellence Scholarship Program?
Because somebody poured into me, Charles. I said, listen, if God has allowed me to have all these talents and skills and strengths and creativity to make money, why can't I pour it back into somebody else, pay it forward? I got some scholarships to go to school that came in handy. Came in handy at the last minute. So that's what I desire to help other people do. If you need a bit of additional money or some funds, I don't want you to say, I can't go to school because I need $842. Then I'm short. I can't buy my books. I can't get a bus ticket. I can't get a flight to school. My mom's a single parent. She can't afford to get me there. If I have it, you have it. I just want to see Black men be successful. These are my brothers, my sons. These are my kids.
Kevin, I'm sorry, Dr. Reese.
You can call me. Listen, you can call me Kevin. I tell people I am a person like everybody else. Now we're in the boardroom, that's fine. But like on the podcast, you can call me Kevin. My mama named me Kevin. You can call me Kevin. Okay, like they say, Cassius Clay. But I appreciate it. I do. But I'm a person like everybody else, and I think people get caught up on these titles. I'm a person like anybody else.
I want to say that when you mentioned the part about the books and the bus ticket and so forth, that experience is so relative to a lot of kids and folk that look like you and I.
Absolutely.
Because that's a real situation. And just as I think about that, and I think of like how we're here on this platform right now today, and how you've created your platforms and navigated an enormous amount of things that you do to give back. What do from a purpose perspective, when you look back on that, how does that make you feel?
Accomplished. It makes me feel good. To be able to help somebody else is a great feeling. And you don't have to ever call my name. I made it. I made it through college because of this program and because of Kevin Reese. I just want you to make it. You don't have to ever call my name. Some people help me, and I'm like, yes, we did. Keep on rolling. And I want you to help somebody else. Go pay it forward. Makes me feel it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be a blessing, Charles.
Yes, it is. Oh my God, yes, it is. Why is it important for you to focus specifically on Black male first-time college students?
Well, it was my doctoral research, and I'm a Black male first-gen college student, right? And so I know what the struggles, the challenges, the obstacles, and the hurdles are. And so why not focus on something that I have lived experiences in?
I gotta say, when you just think about it, and when we look at education, though, and yeah, let me. I'm gonna stray away from that because I want to ask this question because I want to know what your opinion is.
Okay.
Is when we look at education today, and we look and we see that the highest graduation rate amongst ethnicities, period, is Black women. And it's across the board, is Black women. But when you start to see in between, where the white women and white men fall, but the Black men are at the bottom. What do you think is taking place that's keeping our young men from actually maybe taking advantage of an opportunity or thinking of higher education?
I think it's a lack of support and engagement. You know, what kind of role models do you have to look up to teach people who have a doctorate or have a bachelor's or master's degree as a Black man?
Mhm.
It's all about the community that you're involved in. When I was going, they said also it takes a village to raise a child. The villages are disappearing, Charles. They're disappearing. The people are not as engaged as they used to be in church or in social activities or civic activities, and those role models are disappearing, right? And so that's what I think it plays a huge role. And so that's why I work in the field. I am a part of the 2.7% of Black men that have a 2.3 percent that have a black. Oh, let's slow down. 2.3% of Black men have a doctorate in the world. And so now that forces me to stand up and be an example. Hey, listen, if I can make it, you can make it. I'll be a help, your support system, your engagement, your mentor, your coach, your helpmate. I'm here to help you. Right?
Well, yeah, because that's actually deep. Now those numbers I did not know. And so then what is the actual number of Black male educators?
No, that I don't know. I don't want to. Now I know the number because they said in my graduation, but I don't know the number of Black male educators. I don't know, and I don't want to say and then be wrong.
Yeah. So what impact has the scholarship had so far?
So we started in 2015. So we're 11 years old this year. I started with like laundry detergent and rolls of quarters and room supplies for the residence hall, and I eventually evolved into actually giving out scholarships, money. And so I am 11 years in this year, and I think I'm just over $20,000.
Okay. Oh
And
wow,
so
that's actually great.
yeah, so it's a blessing. I have been blessed to be able to give back to people. Mhm.
Mm. Can you share a story of a student whose life was changed by the program?
Gosh, let me see. I'm going to say I'm going to give a young man. His name is Jaheim McLaurin. He's from South Carolina. He just graduated. Amazing young man. He actually just ran for public office here in South Carolina at the age of 22. And so
Oh
he's like one of
wow.
my very first cash recipients. And to watch his journey has been amazing, Charles. To watch him traverse through the things that he went through in life and to go through the University of South Carolina and then to graduate and run for public office and just be this change agent at such a young age has been just inspiring to watch.
Do you guys still stay in contact?
We do. We connected on social media. We talk. I try to check in on all of them from time to time.
Mhm. What advice do you have for others who want to start scholarship initiatives?
Like Nike said, just do it. Just do it, right? I think we sometimes we miss the value of just being a blessing to other people, right? It doesn't have to be a large amount. I started with a $500 scholarship. Well, 250 if bus tickets and if you needed room essentials, and I worked my way up. It does not have to be anything big. You'd be surprised what $100 will do for a college student. Okay, a roll of quarters, some laundry detergent, right? You'd be surprised at what that does for somebody. Start if you gotta start small, start small. Not small beginnings, right? So start today.
Sustain the program financially and structurally.
Well, I have a host of friends who help me as my board of advisors to, score essays and application packages. But like I told you before, God has been a blessing to me. I have all these talents and skills and strengths. So I originally started my line dancing class as an effort to raise money for my scholarship. So I would charge $5 per class per person. That's how I raised money. I was a server at up 2025. I've worked at Delta Airlines. I have worked, oh gosh, I host events on the weekends. I moderate panels. I facilitate. I do some ghostwriting from here to there. I write speeches for people. I edit things. All that money goes back to my scholarship program.
Oh man, that's something.
Mhm.
What is being done from a national perspective to help your program get to be a little bit larger and better known?
So I shared, I'm in several different and Facebook groups.
Okay.
And so I shared in every group me and then every Facebook group. Because some of those groups have tens of thousands of people that I may not know personally, but they can share and broaden the reach. That's what I do every year. And that's where I'm at now. I don't want to get, but I share with those individuals and help their relatives.
Well, I'll tell you this, one of the things that we do because, we're here to actually help platforms and, and help get the word out and so forth. If there's some things that we can do, we can definitely do some broad marketing for you to actually get you out there so people can know about this, about your program and some things that you may need them to do to help you.
Absolutely. I will gladly let you know. So my application for the 26-27 school year will open on June the 1st and it'll close on July 15th. And then we make decisions and then awards are distributed during the 6th week of their first semester. Make sure you're going to stay in school first before you get the money,
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right about that. What does excellence mean in the context of your scholarship?
What does excellence mean? It means striving to be the person, and whatever that means to you. In your civic life, in your community, in your church, in your academics. Strive to be the best possible. That's what excellence.
Reese, there's something going on with your internet. Okay. Your picture got like way, way blurry and so forth, and you was like your words were kind of like slurred, sounding very robotic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. I don't know. I haven't moved, but I'll stay in this spot just in case. Well, so we had some snowstorms, and so our internet's been kind of wonky all day. Um, but yes, I'll stay in the same spot. But sorry about that.
No problem. Let's transition over to your community engagements and your creative platforms.
Okay.
Um, can you tell us what sparked the creation of Soul to Soul line dance experience?
Soul to soul line dancing. We it was okay. I get so excited. Originally, it was a platform to raise money for my scholarship, but line dancing actually saved my life. Okay, in 2014, I was working at an institution, and I was probably at my heaviest weight, about 425 pounds. Okay, and I would go to this dance class every Tuesday from 7 to 9 o'clock. It was called Two Step Tuesdays. And I would say Two Step Tuesdays saved my life. Physically, mentally, I was in a very dark space. And so it saved my life. And so I've been dancing. I'm 41. I've been dancing for about 26 years now. My grandmother was a caterer and she would cater all kind of events. And so I would get to go and tag along with her and I would see the folks dance and I would get so excited. Like, I'm going to learn that dance myself. And that's what I did. And so that's why I started Soul to Soul line dancing. So a way to physically work out, but then also to raise money for my scholarship program. We teach 5 to 85, rhythm, no rhythm. We just came to have a good time. No, it's a no judgment zone.
How does line dancing build community and joy?
You just never know who's gonna be in the room, right? And you never know what you. For me, it's laughter, right? So if I'm up there teaching and I make a mistake, or if I turn the wrong song on or do the wrong steps, it's those small intentional moments of joy and laughter that sometimes you need. You never know who's walking into the class, who you might build community with, who you might share a laugh with, or share some kind of hobby with. And so that's what I think. It's those very intentionally curated moments of joy that the class provides. And music plays a big part in that, so I teach dances, from gospel and Motown and pop and hip hop and jazz. Sometimes it's that, if you hear that song, there's a song by Nancy Wilson, and it says, "Guess who I saw today?" It's an old jazz classic. Guess who I saw today? And you'd be surprised at the memories of different songs evoking people. You just bust out laughing. Like, what I remember where I was 35 years ago when that song came on, when I was doing this, and I'm like, oh my God, that's cool. That's a life story, but also laughter at the same time.
So, what role does creativity play in your leadership?
Creativity allows me the space to be open, to be able to create different things, different platforms, different ideas. And I'm so grateful, higher education has provided me an opportunity to really dive into all my creative genius. It allows me the chance to provide new opportunities for students, but then also myself.
So tell us about the Wednesday Experience podcast. And so when you have those conversations, tell us, like, how do you want to have those conversations elevated? How do you elevate, your audience or with the people that come to the show?
So I tell people always say, "Oh, can I get the questions ahead of time?" Absolutely not. I want you to be, I like authentic answers. If I send you the 13 questions, you're going to rehearse. Okay, so what's your favorite book of the Bible? Well, my favorite book of the Bible is John, because John said this, and John, I want those on the spot answers, right? Those are the ones that you really get the truth out of people. Not to embarrass or, discourage anyone, but those are the ones when you really have that really intentional and engaging conversation when it's off the cuff. And so that's how I elevate it, right? And I think when you do that, it just unlocks something in people. They get excited, they start talking about everything else but the question you ask them, like I do sometimes, right? But that's how I elevate the platform, right? Because you never know one, and sometimes I will be on question 6, and they might take me to a question not even on the page, right? But I want to be able to dive in more so they can help my listeners, right? Because you never know who's stopping by the podcast, but how the podcast might help somebody else.
Use your platforms to uplift marginalized voices.
So the podcast, I have people from everywhere, like I mentioned earlier. I have first generation college students. I have some of my colleagues that come on. I have voices from my fraternity brothers, my sorority sisters, from my church, from my upbringing. So a little bit of everybody. I've been blessed. I call the podcast a mixed bag. I have been blessed to meet some amazing people over the course of my 41 years of life. And so while you don't podcast, you can always be assured, I don't know who's coming on, some gems or some nuggets of wisdom will be dropped to help you in your everyday life.
Wow. So what does community engagement look like in your everyday life?
Well, we talked about my kids. So my kids, making sure they're okay, making sure they're engaged, not only in the academic, but also in the community that the school sits in. But then we talk about things like my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I've had the pleasure for the last 16 years to be 17 years to be a part of this organization. And it has been such a huge blessing to my life, Charles, right? Being able to be out with our local communities, whether it's hosting a spelling bee through my chapter, Alpha Omega Sigma, or canned food drives, or our back to school drive, providing haircuts for students and children, providing scholarships for young men going off to college. We are intentionally engaged in our communities, right? Uplifting those in which we serve.
So, does your school do they actively participate in some of the things you do when it's dealing with the people that come to your platforms, or maybe help engagements with how you get things set up to bring new people in? Do they do anything to help you with that?
Sometimes, right? So I have a very active LinkedIn page. You can look me up. It's Kevin Reese. And I do something every Monday called Marvelous Monday Indeed. It's my thought for the week every week. And I'm always surprised. I do this on LinkedIn and TikTok, but I'm always surprised at who shares the post on LinkedIn. And I get so many requests from those, Marvelous Monday. And they're like, how do you think about this stuff? And I'm like, it's when I wake up, if I see something that I was on a train, on a plane, on the bus, a thought, that comes to my mind, just providing that every week dose of realism, encouragement, and wisdom and engagement. So sometimes people do. They share my stuff that I share on LinkedIn, and that means a lot to me.
Um, Stay grounded while serving so many people.
How do I stay grounded? I stay grounded by knowing that even when things get difficult, it's always going to get better. That no matter how dark the night, midnight only lasts a moment. And so I stay grounded knowing that I have a purpose on this earth to serve people, to be able to elevate, and to be able to provide safe spaces for individuals. That's how I stay grounded, knowing that I have such a unique responsibility to help other people. That's how I stay grounded, because I always think, like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
That's an excellent question. But so as you look through and you're going through, your everyday work and the everyday life of just dealing with your students and people in general, how much of these processes do you use in your everyday life, to relate to people? Or is it like just one of those natural things that you just have that connects automatically?
I think it's natural, Charles. It's natural. Not, I have a great personality, right? And I think it's very engaging and warm. And people oftentimes say that they just feel safe.
Mhm.
And so it comes natural.
So let's go over to Black history. We
Okay.
actually talked, and I mentioned to you that we do Black History 365, and I asked you who are the most influential persons in your life and career, and you told me that was John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Shirley Chisholm. Can you tell us why is John Lewis such a powerful influence on your life and leadership?
He was a trailblazer. I'm not an attorney, but a trailblazer, not afraid to get into what we call, not afraid to shake the table or to stir the pot a little bit in order to get conversation moving. And that's how I live my life, right? I'm going to speak up and have a space at the table. I'm a firm believer you're not given skills and gifts and talents and platforms to lie dormant. Is to help somebody else. And so, hey, John Lewis was a person who, if I got to get arrested, now I'm not trying to get arrested, right, in this day and time, but if I have to get into a good bit of trouble, then I'm going to do that to be able to help elevate somebody else's voice, amplify their experiences. Because again, we're what? Helpers one to another.
Yeah. So what lessons from Fannie Lou Hamer resonate most deeply with you?
To keep on going, even in the midst of danger. She was out here registering people to vote on the line in Mississippi every day to make sure that African Americans had the right to vote, but also helping them to understand that the power that they had in their voices and in their vote.
So, how has Shirley Chisholm shaped your understanding of courage and representation?
Think about where she was in 1972. Then now it's only 50 years, 55 years ago, 54 years ago, but think about what the stage is set for people coming behind her. That took a lot of courage, right? She had death threats. She had people try to life and to ruin her career because she wanted to step up and have a bigger seat at the table and to really be able to amplify voices. And so it just teaches me every day that even when people don't see the value in what you're doing, to keep on going anyway.
So
People
let me just
may never say, "Hey, I appreciate you," but go ahead.
Mhm. When you just think about these three people and knowing the things that they not only endured, but for them, their purpose was community and was to the people that they wanted to help to make better and make them rise. How did you take from what they were doing, their life stories, and how does that transcend to you, and where do you fit in that whole category?
It's like they pass the torch. I get to pass the torch on my kids every day, right? So they stood up for what they provide voices. Now I get to pass it on to my kids every day. You all are the next generation of change agents. So you've got to take this. So we took the mantle from Shirley Chisholm and John Lewis and Fannie Lou Hamer. I got the baton now. Now I got to pass it off and give it to you. The things that you are learning at this institution and you're learning in life, that's going to help you take this baton even further than I.
Okay, we've got a comment here from okay, what's that? Victor.
From Victor. Hey, Victor,
Um,
how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, House. Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're enjoying the conversation. Um, so how do these three icons show up in your work with students?
Advocacy. I'm gonna use these three words: advocacy, amplification, and action. Taking action for my students when they may not have the opportunity to do so, amplifying the voices, opinions, and thoughts and ideas of my kids, and advocating for them, not only on the local level, but also on the state level when more scholarship dollars are needed, or going to the Board of Trustees. We need these things to make sure that we are keeping our competitive, right? So action, advocacy, and amplification.
What does good trouble look like in higher education today?
Good trouble looks like shaking the table even against, I was watching this young lady. She is a representative out of Missouri and a black woman. And I mean, she
Is
was
it
so
Corey
inspiring.
Bush?
Not Cori Bush. I just saw her. She represents North St. Louis.
Okay.
I just ran across her on TikTok yesterday, but the way she stood up for her constituents in North St. Louis, I said that's what I want to do for my students. For students who have no voice, who can't speak up, that is why I'm here. You how do students feel engaged and cared for? It's those intentional moments. You know, you can say, well, I told Dr. Reese that I didn't have a suit to wear, 100 suits. Now you have a suit or two or three, right? Making sure that if you well, I didn't want to ask anybody. I was really embarrassed. You don't have to be embarrassed, right? I am here to help you. We have resources to help you. So that's what it does for me every day.
So then, when you think about that good trouble, I mean, would it be good to have some good trouble when it comes to what's that with now how college tuition has risen way above anything in the world? Kids can't afford it. They don't want to teach what they need to be teaching, and they trying to find ways to just force students out. Is that some good trouble to get into?
It absolutely is. You think about student loan debt, right? I tell people all the time, if you can give $27 billion to Ukraine, you don't need my money. You do not need my student loan money. There was a lady, I was on Twitter one day and I was going, I said, I'm glad you said PPP loan that you took out and you're a millionaire. You took out a loan for $2.9 million and got it forgiven. And you were a millionaire. You didn't need the money, but you took it anyway. Well, that's different. Oh, no. No, it's not different. You took the money, like you said, I did. I took the money because I needed it. You can pay it back too. Well, you're not understanding. I'm not going to argue if you're not going. I am understanding. I'm trying to help you understand what it's like for me. You're a millionaire taking out more money than you needed when you could have used your own. You had your own resources, and then what that looks like for me, somebody who is working every day, and I have to repay these exorbitant amounts of money every month to keep on moving. When you tell me, okay, your student loan payment is $1,313, how can you pay that today? I can't. I sure cannot pay that at all. Like, I don't. You better call Jesus, okay? Because I can't pay it. Like, and I mean, even if I had it, that's ridiculous.
Yes,
that is crazy. When you think about people who've gotten their stuff forgiven, the politician I was arguing with, I'm sorry, having discourse. People always said arguing. I was having discourse with. You took out a PPP loan for $2.9 million. My student loan debt is like $84,000. How was that equal?
Exactly.
How? And you have generational wealth, so you had money, and you took taxpayer dollars. Okay, help make it make sense, Madam Politician. And she blocked me, but that's fine. That's good trouble.
But Reese, I mean, you hit that nail right on the head, because you know, the way they were going around, they were getting ready to start again, to actually go and start messing with people again about these student loans, which they were highly upset with Biden actually doing what he was doing to actually get rid of student loan debt. And so
because that would level the playing field.
Right. And they were upset about that. But what I'm trying to get across, and what I would like to know, especially from your opinion, when we think about student loan debt and we think about the cost of education today, is that devaluing education, or is that one of those things that's going to continue to make the playing field unlevel, not even, because a lot of people just won't be able to afford it?
It's going to continue to make it uneven. With you taking away, Pell lower most first-generation students, low-income house, and to different loans and grants, you are continuing to widen that gap. They said, "Oh no, put the goalposts." No, it's going to continue. But what I don't think politicians realize, just like it affects people of color, it also affects your white constituents who are from first-gen backgrounds or low-income households. So while you're trying to hold us back, it's also holding them back.
Right. So how do you honor the legacy of these three leaders in your personal life?
Making sure I can remain grounded, humble, and first, right? And if I can't,
yes, sir.
That's how I add it to my life.
You know, I think that's also a good thing, because a lot of people that like to do service. I mean, I've had several guests just like yourself that talk about service, and when they talk about service, you can tell, the authenticity and the purity in which they mean what they're saying. If we could just get so many other people to do that give back, as you say, or pay it forward, oh my God, there's no telling what the world might be like.
You'd be surprised. Again, those small pay it forward moments.
Do you feel as a Black leader standing on their shoulders?
It's a large responsibility, because you never want to feel like you're letting your ancestors down. But it's also an amazing, exciting opportunity to, and I'll use the notion of that baton passing, knowing that you pass this baton to me to strides that you couldn't make, and then I get to pass it on to others that'll make strides that I'll never be able to make. And that's such an amazing feeling. You prepared me, Now I get to prepare my kids to go out and be great in the world.
Let's talk about your reflections and your future vision.
Okay.
What is the next chapter for Dr. Kevin Reese?
Oh gosh. You know, I higher ed for 18 years now. And so, you know, while I'm still young, I'm still young, right? I'm still young. You know, what else would I want to do? Growing my scholarship, I would love today when I'm about, you know, $2,500 per person, you know, where I can say, you know, I have 10 awards for 10,000. Somebody millions of who need help. Our Black Collar Service Institute, our HSIs, our SIs, right? So they're not beg for money from individuals who value. That's my prayer, that I'm able to do that and be able to give back in such a major way.
Well, for the last round of questionings that we had, Victor has put a comment here in the chat.
Okay.
And I'll put it on the screen there. He says, all hearts are not the same. Would you like to respond to that?
That is very true. All hearts are not the same, but I think when you look at people, you talk to them, you and I think you mentioned this earlier, Charles, you get to see the authenticity and genuineness of people, right? I'm grateful for discernment because, you know, do I talk to everybody? No. Do I trust everybody? No. I lean heavily on my discernment. So all hearts are not, let's make it through.
So what message do you want every young Black student listening tonight to take with them?
I want you to take, I don't care how rough it gets, the night may be, you have a support system today, but you have a support system in me because I know what it's like, you know, especially as a first gen student, not have to connect to or talk to or vent to. Take it through it. You can get through this. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, the nights are long. The papers are even longer. Get through this, and you got a support system in me.
So, in closing, what are some words of wisdom or encouragement that you like to have that you have for our audience? Also, how they can connect with you via your social media, and you know, the links to your websites or things of that nature.
I'll tell you this: if you're going to bet on anything or anybody, make sure you bet on yourself first. That's my closing thought for tonight. And so I end my podcast the same way every time I do it. It says to govern yourselves accordingly, drink lots of water, mind your business, pay attention, stay in your own lane, be grateful for absolutely everything. Don't forget to smile as much as you can. And whatever you do, don't forget to put on lotion because you cannot be ashy and be successful. That's how I end every podcast. But you can find me on LinkedIn at Kevin Reese, EDD. You can find me on TikTok if you use TikTok at Blue Soul, BLUSOUL 1914. I am on Instagram at The Entertainer, all one word, TheeEnttertainer. If you want to email me, you can email me, send a smoke signal, you can send a pigeon, whatever you want to do. Charles has all my contact information. Reach out. Let's have a conversation. But I'm so grateful for this opportunity tonight, Charles. I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity.
Appreciate you for being here. And I'm glad that, you know, you were able to come and give the audience, you know, some wisdom and some encouragement from your perspective as being an educator and, you know, you being in higher education because That's one of the things that's taking a major brunt right now from a political perspective, where education is trying to be destroyed. And we definitely want to continue to shine a light on that. So my final words are these. Um, Family, tonight we witnessed what leadership looks like when it is rooted in service, shaped by community, and guided by purpose. Dr. Kevin Reese reminded us that excellence is not an act, it is a lifestyle. It is a commitment to lifting others as we climb, to creating opportunities where none existed, and to honoring the giants whose footsteps cleared our path. From Dayton to KSU, from Morris College to the national stage, Dr. Reese stands as a testament to what happens when passion meets preparation and when purpose meets perseverance. His work, his voice, and his vision continue to move our people forward. Dr. Reese, thank you for your service, your scholarship, and your unwavering belief that we are helpers to one another. And to our audience, keep pushing, keep building, and keep telling the truth about who we are. This has been America in Black and White. I'm Charles Zachary King. Good night and stay inspired. Thank you, Dr. Reese. I'll definitely be in touch with you, and you have a great evening as well.
You too. Thank you.